welcome to the Epic Ecopreneur podcast. I used to call this a pseudo podcast, but somebody asked me, like, how do you even have that? What is that? So Epic Ecopreneur podcast, which is posted on YouTube most often, and we'll be sharing that in other ways as well. I am Pete Wyden at the Epic Ecopreneur. I help business owners of all kinds who are eco-focused, but especially landscape designers who want to help create a regenerative world, want to help people grow more food, create native habitat, help create healthy farms in their region. That's what I do as well as a designer, and so it's what I'm all about. Today, I have a very special guest, Breanne Gibson from Circular Nutrition, who I met at the Bullock Brothers homestead back in maybe 2016.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, 2016.
Yeah, we did an advanced PDC together in Washington, which is just a blast over a week. And since then, we realized that we both were getting into the online space as permaculture influenced professionals. And so Breanne has a really cool take on things. She's got a lot of acronyms after her name. She can explain more of that. She has a master's degree in science. I think it might be in biology.
Environmental science.
Okay, yep. Environmental science, sweet. So she is a global change leader, speaker, regenerative coach, holistic nutrition expert, and a permaculture consultant, which is just means she's very well rounded, and she does have this focus on helping to create a more connected, whole, and regenerative future for us all. So today, Breanne helps impact-driven entrepreneurs and visionary leaders to harmonize with nature, to access higher levels of health, creativity, and fulfillment in their lives, relationships, and businesses. So this is a whole perspective on how the whole system of life works together in the microcosm that is us within the macro, through to her one-to-one regenerative coaching program and permaculture garden consulting. And Breanne also continues to take part in permaculture and regenerative projects internationally. And I know that you've been traveling. Is that related to some of that work? I know you were in Bali for a while earlier this year.
Yeah, well, actually, I was actually still going to be in Bali at this time.
Okay.
However, I got back a lot earlier, so I didn't actually get to what I was actually going to be doing, just because of the unfoldings.
Yeah.
But largely, like when I do go someplace there, whether it's on like a micro scale or like a larger project or just getting involved in an amazing community or something great going on in that area is typically what I look into when going to places.
So like plugging in, like, is that from a food perspective, or are there certain angles that you're taking when you seek out projects?
More so from like a restoration, permaculture community, growing food for the local town, or just a place for like a hub space for people to connect and learn, deepen their connection with food, or like maybe in the kitchen, or deepen their connection, spending time more in nature, in a food forest, or places like that.
Cool. And so what has that looked like? I know that you were in Africa on one of your earlier projects?
Yeah, Africa. So I spent quite a bit of time in Eastern Africa. It started off in Zanzibar, the island off the coast of Tanzania. I was a part of a project there, designing and implementing the Practical Permaculture Institute of Zanzibar, and it's been phenomenal to watch its growth since that time. Like it's just amazing the amount of permaculture design courses they're teaching there, and workshops and different things. And the food forest has just exploded, in that climate zone. And from there, I went to another little project in northern Tanzania, then into Kenya on a conservation area, and I was working in the permaculture, quite a large scale permaculture garden there. And then went into Uganda on this other, like, it's more central Uganda, a big project that was really just starting to take off. And I didn't spend too much time in that area, but just kind of got my feet on the ground and saw what was kind of taking place in the kind of whole idea of the whole, essentially establishing a town in that area, but all designed permaculturally. And then I returned back to Kenya and helped teach on a permaculture design course at the Practical Permaculture Institute of Kenya. And so it was quite a well-rounded Eastern Africa trip, but all kind of moving through it. There was a few other stops as well. But yeah, it was like one of the most, it just was so touching, that time for me in Eastern Africa. The people, the land, the ability to transform landscapes. Just to see it in action was really, really beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I can only imagine. I've spent most of my life in the Midwest, in the Great Lakes region, which is gorgeous, and I love it here. I did some edible and native landscape design in Portland, Oregon for a couple of years, and moved down to Florida for a little while to explore some tropical gardening. And it's been really interesting now, rooting into where I'm at now. I live on an organic blueberry farm, and I'm getting into the elderberry growing.
Nice.
Elderberry farming in my area. And yeah, I just like following, I would imagine that your experience in Africa and still today, you're following some of maybe those more intuitive cues around the opportunities that come up. And that's what I've been doing in my experience here. It's been all these opportunities came when I started focusing on perennial fruit production.
Yeah.
Like I live in this huge place right now. It's got a brand new kitchen, and it's on 20 acres. And the owner here just was like, I want you to be the person to help with this farm. And it's all because I gave a talk on elderberries and hazelnuts. And I was just like, okay, the universe is telling me
telling
something.
sign.
So it sounds like your experience in Africa may have been, a similar series of events, because you bounced around to multiple things. I didn't realize you were at more than one project.
Yeah, and I actually ended up returning at the very end back to Zanzibar and giving a workshop at the location that we worked on at the beginning.
Wow.
So yeah, it was quite a well-rounded trip. I was there for about half a year, and yeah, it was really special and transformative times for sure. Yeah.
Neat. And then, so how do some of those experiences then lead to where you are today? Because, I'm not 100% up on exactly what you're doing right now, but I know there's some aspect of you're running a program for women who are interested in growing more of their own nutrition, plugging in their space and everything.
So actually, I created this program back in 2017. And at that time, I just knew, like, I had this calling that, okay, for families, like there's something about families wanting to grow some of their own food, not necessarily on a massive scale, whether they're rural, suburban, urban, but that they want to have that connection and also help their children, their young children to also understand more about food, how food grows, have that nature connection in their space. So I was really called to kind of just key into that, to those individuals. So like conscious moms, women who want to grow some of their own food. And that's essentially who the course is designed for. So it's like a 6-week online program. And then there's just this beautiful community that's growing where everyone that takes the course is a part of and is in for always. And pretty much is like a step-by-step, foundational course from like starting from the roots of principles to soil and our connection to it, to composting, to designing your garden, how to grow real and regenerative food, and then harvesting that and bringing it from like garden to gut health. And so it's kind of like this overarching series. And it's been really fun. And especially right now, lots of people are really feeling called to, with some personal experiences of like food or going to the grocery store or what it may be. But a lot of people I'm seeing are feeling called to, grow some of their, like, whether it's sprouts or a few herbs, or start a garden in their backyard or on their porch in pots, whatever it may be. So that's really cool. I love it. I love seeing that like interest growing out of what's happening.
Absolutely. Is that something that you run seasonally, that program, or is it ongoing?
It's ongoing. So I have ladies signing up like, it's been quite consistent in the, like, since the pandemic, essentially, that people are having that interest. And so you just join, you do it on your own pace. And then you're right a part of the community where you can ask questions, receive guidance and feedback, post photos of your design. It's just like a collaborative space, and then see what other ladies are doing and what their gardens look like, and so
around the world probably, right?
yeah, I mean, largely right now it's US and Canada,
Okay.
for the most part, just with like what kind of my social media channels reach.
Okay.
Um, organically. But yeah, there has been some from Australia or South Africa, so it is touching other little spaces, but it's largely US and Canadian women and moms.
Something that I've been so inspired by in the process of creating online programs is the interaction with the people who come in there, because like when we're behind the scenes as a creator or a service provider kind of crafting what we're going to do, we have a certain idea of who it might be for. There's a certain feeling to kind of being in that creative space maybe on our own, and then once it unfolds and it takes on a life of its own, like you've got the community of women sharing their gardens, and with the focus growth program that I run for designers, they're all sharing what they're up to, and it's so beautiful how it becomes so much more
Yeah.
through people just naturally like having a place to be
Mm-hmm.
and connect.
Yeah, the power of community.
Right.
Yeah. And so needed today on so many levels.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's interesting, because as when we were back at the Bullocks, or all my like in-person on ground experiences, like I kind of was hesitant and resistant at times of like this whole online space. And like even when I created this course back in 2017, there was still like kind of like this, like it felt funny, like teaching this in the online space. And then as time went on, though, and especially right now, it's just okay, like, it is a beautiful thing to have access to, and to be able to reach more people, and bring people from different walks of life and different places together into one space because of the, how it functions online. So more flexibility, more, there's so many benefits to it. But it was a process for me, like especially being such like an earth in-person connection person. But it's showing to be quite a beautiful experience, as a result.
And it's really cool to look at how we can channel a certain energy and a function of the online space and software, the tech, to basically be able to dissolve the barriers between each other as much as possible, more than ever before, while being in a separate place. And I'm the same way. Like there are often days where I'm thinking like, I wonder what life would be like if I was just like planting pollinator prairies and like actually implementing the stuff that I design, because I love that side of things. But there is something where like that feeling I was mentioning, it's like once you have that connection online with like-minded people, and there's that focal, everyone's got a similar intention, how powerful that is. And that's something that I've found, that even though it's not in person, and I mean, I can be outside when I do this stuff, I bring my computer out or whatever, or, doing videos out in nature. Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is like, there are some really, really cool experiences that we can create when we use these tools intentionally.
Yeah, most definitely.
So, like I was talking about before we started this official call here, that I've been looking into this for a long time, this gut and psychological health connection. And I'm getting more and more interested in it. I think it's so cool that you mentioned that connection between the soil, the food we grow, and even that connection of what I'm realizing, like I'll go out and harvest nettles, for example, right now. And I haven't bought greens in like 2 weeks. Nettle, nettle, nettle.
Nettle pistol it up.
Yeah, yeah, it's so good. And the connection I have with the food I'm eating, it's like I've experienced a lot of IBS symptoms for a long time, just like kind of weird indigestion things, mostly related to my mental state. And if I'm in a state of like trying to work and get back to emails or whatever while I'm eating, it just doesn't work. It
Right.
just doesn't mix.
No.
And like when I've harvested something myself, maybe I've grown it, or maybe I've simply had the experience of finding it and being so appreciative of the fact that it's just out there growing like nettles for my benefit. It seems so much easier for my body to get in a state of true receptivity. It's been really interesting.
Yeah, probably because you're tapping into that, like just the power of gratitude, because you're actually being outside and you're connecting to the food in its growing location, seeing it for what it is, recognizing it for what it is, harvesting it in gratitude, and then bringing it into your body. So it's like this whole process that is void when, it's just like something quick and fast and maybe not even paying attention to when bringing it into the body. So the mind state in that, like that whole process is like, it's so much like love and gratitude and like just such a much deeper appreciation and connection to the food. So it sounds like it's been quite a powerful experience.
Absolutely. And I've been helping my mom and her neighbor get a garden going because
Oh, sweet.
it's so fun. The past couple of years, we've had a garden together, the three of us. And so, I come over, I get to hang out with my mom, and the neighbor comes over. I used to babysit for her kids like 20 years ago. And so to have that experience is really beautiful. There were a ton of nettles growing in the garden, and we're getting ready to plant other things in there. So I was cutting them off and harvesting them. And I told my mom, I was like, I'm going to transplant these nettles. She's like, are you insane? We have so many around here. I was like, we're going to transplant these nettles. Super valuable. And yeah, so this other thing I've been getting into, which I've wanted to for so long, it's so interesting to me, the mental and also like the subconscious aspect of starting, say, new habits. And one habit that I've started to get into is like I'll make a lot of different broths, and like I'll always have my instant pot going with something. I'm just like throw it in there because I used to think, oh, it'll be a ton of work to like put it all together and then jar it up and get it in the fridge. And it's just become so natural. And so the next thing for me that I've just really put off for a long time is I got this amazing book called, it's just Fermented Vegetables is the name of the book. I can drop a link.
Yeah, drop a link. There's so many of them out there, so I'd be curious which one you've been flipping through.
Yeah, 1 second. I'm going to go grab it. It'll be
okay.
And like, I've just been amazed because this is just a never-ending adventure of amazingness.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I've seen that cover before.
It's so good. It's got
who's the author?
It's Kirsten and Christopher Shockey. They're in Oregon.
Okay.
I think Southern Oregon, Applegate Valley of Southern Oregon. They have a 40-acre farm, and like they've got different sauces and pastes and relishes, and they're just like fermented fruit. And there's this recipe for a Jewish technique of you just chop beets into 1-inch cubes and throw them in water in a jar without any salt.
Oh.
And then you just drink it within like a few days later. And this used to be such a intrinsic part of the human diet, especially I feel like when we didn't have access to refrigeration, right?
Yeah, to make use of all the harvest, especially over the cooler months.
Right.
And the beauty of fermented foods too, which has been lost, is, you know, when you create them in your own environment, you're actually supporting your microbiome that much more, because it's using, you know, the microbes in your living space. So then you're nourishing your gut for a more specific to the environment you're living in. So it's that much more supportive than, you know, ordering something from across the country and then bringing it into your home space. It's still, you know, potentially a great fermented product, but the way in which it's going to create synergy with your individual microbiome is going to be different than how you may feel eating the same fermented food, but the one that you made in your home environment. Yeah. So that's great that you're making lots of that.
Yeah, my refrigerator is full of beets right now, and cabbage. And I was just reading about this cabbage beet sauerkraut, and they were saying that be careful, because if you close the jars too tightly, they'll explode, and the jars will burp and knock into each other because the beets are so sugary. And you know, this is just so beautiful, because I mean, there's so many aspects of why this stuff is great, but to what I've really been tapping into the past few months, like I had a really interesting experience this winter of just really just questioning, making sure that I'm really doing what is fulfilling to me, and that I'm not just doing something because of some external reason that I don't realize isn't actually my choice, or, you know, like my ultimate who I am. And what I came back to is that this stuff I'm doing with the design, with the business coaching, with music, it is all who I am, and it hasn't really changed. But I've taken this approach of really looking at how can I simplify my life to not even from like a goal attainment standpoint, in terms of like the mindset of, you know, focus and your vision will be achieved faster, although that's happening. But I burnt out, my energy burnt out. I was just like, I've been diagnosed with Lyme disease 5 different times in my life, and was on antibiotics when I was a kid. And so this fermented thing is part of that, you know, the gut health and all that connection. But these types of things, and this experience with the pandemic, like I'm not going to the grocery store as much. I go maybe a third of the time I used to go. I have this beautiful natural food co-op in my hometown here, Stillwater, Minnesota, and I'm friends with everybody who works there. And so I go there just to get a
social
hang out with my friends. And to just be looking at the fridge and feeling the feeling of, well, I should go to the store because I don't have anything. And then I look a little deeper and I find like, oh, here's these mung beans in the freezer I already cooked. And here's like, I'll like saute this cabbage or whatever. And I put it together and I'm like, dang, this is great. and it's so simple, and it's very cost effective. It's very, you know, I'm not wasting food nearly as much, even though anything that I might waste is going to the compost.
Right.
But this is part of, and I'm just like doing such a good job selling this book or that, which is great because they're awesome. But it's such a part of that richer experience that we can create when we tap into and co-create with nature. Like that deeper health, that deeper experience of these garlic scapes that I started fermenting in June that we're enjoying in September, and having that with, you know, sharing that with friends, and the experience that comes from, you know, it's not everybody is going to have a friend. Like for me, I get to be the cool friend who's like got all these crazy vegetables. And it also ties in with this aspect of how my perspective on life has shifted, of living my life as though it were a novel, and just being a real artist with my life, and then also with my food. Like it translates to everything. It's just so exciting.
It is. Yeah. I love that you just like, you know, named it like the art, because if we live our life through art, like whether it's our day-to-day or our business or how we craft our food, it becomes this whole new experience because it's like our creative being activated kind of on an ongoing basis, no matter what area of life we're tapping into, and that it allows expansion to happen because we're seeing it as art or as artistic or creative, never ending, always can change, never being certain, like, you know, excited for what may unfold, what the outcome may be, or what the end product may taste like, you know, all these different angles of like, we'll just see, this is like an experiment, and we'll paint the canvas and we'll see what comes of it, you know. So I love that you just named it like that. Yeah.
Thanks. And yeah, to have you reflect and bring it around to this aspect of being open to whatever the outcome may be.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, what has stopped me from doing a lot of things that I otherwise might have just wanted to do, and like I don't have any regrets, but it's always been thinking that it had to be a certain outcome. Like when I write this song, or when I put out this social media post, or when I meet with this design client, it has to be or feel or turn out a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And there is so much more room for that expansion, for that deeper appreciation and pleasant surprises when it is that perspective of the artist.
Yeah, because that openness is also allowing you to tap into potentially like creating synergy with the universe or consciousness or existence or whatever God, whatever you call it. So like in that openness allows you to kind of be resonating with that vibration essentially. Whereas if there's like a, you know, what you're naming of like potential desire for a specific, you know, outcome, then it's almost like a closing off, because there can be so many other potential avenues or, you know, unfoldings through the process of it that
Right.
we would just never know if we're like so focused on like the one thing or it being a specific way or a specific result. So yeah.
So I have two questions, but the first one is, what is that interesting? Is that like a timber part of your home behind you with the
This? Oh, this.
What is
This?
that? Yeah.
Oh, it's just a piece of wood with like some pottery, like Japanese like art on it.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not, I'm at my sister's because I came back from Bali early and then I was planning to be here. And then I'm here also helping her create a garden as well, just like you're working with your mom and neighbor. Yeah, so I'm actually at my sister's house.
Okay.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like rusted mini tractor seats to me.
Oh, yeah. I can see what you mean. Yeah, because they are like a tractor shape, but then they have little like, I believe it's like Japanese symbols.
Okay.
Or not, they're not called symbols, but yeah.
Cool. The other question I have is, so when I'm working with a designer who's either starting or, you know, stabilizing their business, there is a strategy that I know has worked for me and for other people. I think it's interesting. It's coming up a lot for me lately with the people I'm working with and myself, where bringing in more of that intuitive kind of spontaneous aspect to how we approach things, and potentially blending that with like an actual system or strategy. I'm curious how that might apply to how you work with your clients.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty big question actually.
It is huge.
Like, because I'm just thinking of it from the different angles, but essentially, you know, we're at a point, if we kind of dive into like how I see like human evolution or business change, business, like doing business in a different way, you know, for people, for planet, and obviously for economic growth, like that's important, you know, for businesses to thrive. But like it's coming at it from like a new beingness. And so largely, you know, from industrial evolution times and this whole evolution of kind of the mechanistic mindset, analytical thinking, you know, very like step-by-step structure, always having the plan, and then, you know, end result. Whereas now we're kind of at a place, especially as creative beings and as entrepreneurs and business owners, is that if we're seeing the world from a more greater whole perspective, then we also, it's an opportunity to open to us to accessing our greater whole, like we are essentially an expression of it, so that we can access the creative potential and be working with you know, consciousness, universe, existence as we create. So I think it's just like this whole transformation of like the conditioning of the mind, of the human mind, from what has been instilled in societal and cultural, you know, ways, into a new way of thinking and seeing and feeling and connecting and being as we move through not only this pandemic, but like what's coming, like this immensely powerful time, especially as entrepreneurs and business owners and creatives, that this is like an immense growth opportunity, because there's just so much potential right now for, you know, what we want to create, what we want to voice, what we want to lead, what we want to stand for. And if we can do that in such a way that it's not to say that structure isn't beautiful, because structure is, I mean, you think of day to day, like I have structure to my day, and that is immensely beneficial for me. You know, so it's not to say no structure, no strategy, but it's like within that structure and strategy, it's actually like a pulling feeling. It's not a pushing sensation. It's kind of like how I like to describe it with my clients. It's like oftentimes it's like the strategy, it's like, you know, it's coming from the mind of like the push, like we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do this, you know. Whereas if it's like a pulling feeling, that the strategy is like calling you because that's the avenue in which it wants to take, then there's a whole different experience of that strategy, because you're not coming at it from a like, oh, this is what I got to do kind of feeling. It's like, I'm excited because like this is amazing and this is the way in which I am feeling called to do it. Right. And so, yeah, it's not like black and white in by any means, but yeah, is that tapping into a little bit of your question? There's just,
yeah, it's cool. And I can give you a little more context. So like, I do different trainings with various business mentors of mine, and those people are like this guy Taki Moore, who I work with. He helps people lead really effective group coaching programs. And so I've used that to help me really understand how can I bring the most value and attention to people in a group setting.
Right.
And so what I found is that like this past Thursday, I was leading our group Q&A call in Focus Growth. And I had this idea. I was like, okay, well, I'll do this training on here's how to create a kind of a mini offer to help people just get started, maybe with, say, a landscape project or whatever it is a consultant might help with in this time where there's something that clients need help with, but they might not be ready to go for your like big kahuna package.
Right.
And so I had this like framework of, okay, we're going to walk through step by step. And it just like halfway through, one of the people on the call was like, Pete, this isn't working for me. I need something. And part of it was it needed to be a little more visual. So I always like to use my dry erase board. But at the same time, it was like, wow, you know, this technique of having this certain kind of outline, it doesn't work for like, even though somebody else is very successful leading their group coaching in a certain way, it doesn't mean it's going to work for me and who I'm helping.
Exactly.
And so another piece that's come through is that really asking myself, how can I help people who are so people who are in flow and things that are coming to them intuitively are working in their business. How can I help to enhance that without suppressing that with some kind of like strategy framework, boom, 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 you know, because what I've also found in the way that I run the Epic Ecopreneur and my design business is that I don't need all these fancy things,
Exactly.
you know, all this fancy tech and everything. A lot of that the type of process stuff for me gets in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really taking a profound perspective shift and looking at things from all angles of, yeah, how do I want to show up with really nurturing that spontaneity and that intuitive wisdom that every person has. And that's the stuff that's really going to help them be successful in the end.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
And
I can make sure, yeah, like I can help somebody, you know, make sure their website's really clear or they're communicating something. But I really want to be led by someone's own guidance.
Totally. Yeah, and I think you said it right there at the end of like, it's nurturing that. It's like recognizing it in the clients that you're working with, that there is this intuitive wisdom, and it's showing itself, and to hold space for that to be truly nourished and to support that person when the mind of the conditionings, from when they were younger or whatever, of life comes in, that you actually remind them of their wisdom, of their potential, of tapping into that source of intuition. And I think that's the power of like being able to hold that space and coach that and support that individual, is just like nourishing that. Because we all have that within us. And I think that's the beauty of business moving forward, is that, through authenticity and uniqueness, we're all going to experience, success, and sharing and leading and creating something so beautiful, because we are first connected with ourselves, and then we can, from that place, share it to the world from a more rooted place, than just kind of trying to find strategy or system or random searching of how to cultivate that business growth or success, where if it worked for one person does not mean by any means, and that's the gimmick of all the online space don't get consumed by that, like how I made X or whatever, all the things, it's just like, great, I'm super happy for you. And I'm going to continue focusing on what I'm feeling called of how, and having, so totally.
Yeah, I've been getting really into some work on my subconscious lately. I've actually been listening to an 8-hour, it's called Reality Transurfing.
Oh, wow.
It's this guy, Brian Scott, he's got a YouTube channel. It's some really interesting stuff. And it's really, what it comes down to is he talks about these pendulums. And there's a book called Reality Transurfing, and another man named Neville Goddard, who he uses biblical teachings, although I'm not a self-professed Christian, but he uses these kind of universal teachings that are from the Bible about how to cultivate intention and really bring through our inner guidance. And one of the main things that you talking about, like the person coming up on YouTube saying, I have this amazing life and you can follow my steps and get the exact same thing. And I've done so much online training. I know that you've done a lot of different things as well. And, we take bits and pieces and lessons from each one for sure. But it's so true, like you said, that we have our inner guidance, and that is really what's going to lead us where we want to go. It is about taking a step or leaning into a feeling, and then the landscape becomes that much more clearer, rather than what's talked about in reality transurfing as pendulums, where it's attached to our central point of, say, focus or inspiration, but we might swing one way thinking, oh, I saw this person with a bunch of really popular YouTube videos. That means I need to do YouTube. Oh, now I need to like, you know, do all these other things. And I'm just focused on my Facebook group right now, the free Epic Ecopreneur group, because that's where I'm having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm doing free trainings. Like we did this
Yeah.
permission to serve training last week, and it's going really well. And I feel that much more momentum with what I'm doing and purpose, and that I'm, you know, in a real way that I'm actually making a difference,
Mm-hmm.
rather than Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Oh my God, you know?
Yeah, keeping it simple. One of my mentors, I love, he says, you know, how can you make it easy? Like how easy can you make it?
Yeah.
You know, like cuz there's this tendency to say hard, or like make it hard, or that it has to be hard.
Right.
And that if we ask the question like how easy can I make it, no matter what you're focusing on, but how easy can I make this? And you know what you were just alluding to, of like, you know, you're spending your time on the place that lights you up the most, that is truly feeling like it's the most meaningful space to like concentrate your energy right now. And from that energy, you know, that's when you're creating that resonance, you know, with your own true nature, and also the resonance of the field that you want to be tapping into.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's like let's shift from, you know, the hard to like the easy. Not that it's necessarily simple, or maybe it's simple, but can it be easy, you know?
There's a
But
journey
yeah.
to get there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. Well, this
Mm-hmm.
has been an epic conversation.
Yeah.
Super good. Are you a guitar player, by the way? Who's the guitar?
Well, I would say both me and my sister are wannabes. Like I have a guitar at home, she has a guitar, but we're both like just, you know, I play piano, and then I've always wanted to play guitar, and I got into it a bit, but because then it like I was away from a guitar, I just like, you know, so I have to, if I really want to make progress, really create some consistency with it. But yeah, this is my sister's guitar.
Okay.
But I know you play. I'm always like, I
Yeah.
fall in love like instantly with guitar players. Like I love you because like you play guitar. It's like, it's been like that my whole life. Acoustic, like when I hear especially like acoustic guitar, it's just like, I love you. Thank you.
So I'll show you quick. I've got this little backpacking guitar.
Oh, sweet.
So this is made by
Oh,
Mark,
wow.
and I got it when I was like 21. So I've had it for about 10 years, and it's also, you can see it's got like all the marks. It's all stained, and there was a documentary I watched on Willie Nelson. I don't know if you've ever seen his guitar Trigger. It's this big. It's like a full-bodied acoustic guitar, but it's got like a huge hole from all the picking he's done. Like you can see through the
Oh my
guitar,
gosh.
and I feel so. I just love that this guitar is getting worn out and like the body's cracked. And that's part of the art of it, is that, you know, it's I put all the wear into this guitar. It also sat out in Santa Cruz, California for an entire week on a front porch in what people told me is it's a neighborhood where things just get taken off front porches, and it sat there for a whole week when I forgot it. And so there's some kind of magic going on here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really unique shape.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll walk around the farm just playing. It's super fun.
So good.
Yeah. So as we wrap up here, I will include links for you've got your, I forgot exactly what it's called. It's like the RTT or something. This your plan.
So the regenerative roadmap.
Thank
Is
you. Yeah.
that
I
the guide?
apologize.
Yeah. So the guide for, the guide for like my coaching work is called the Regenerative Roadmap, and then I have a Grow Your Own Nutrition guide that is more directed for supporting those who want to start growing their own food. So those are kind of like the two guides. Yeah. So I can, if you don't have, you may have those links already, but
I do.
yeah.
And so that's at breannegibson.com, correct?
Yeah, they're also there. Yeah, they're also there on the website too, in the downloads.
Cool. And so for everybody, that's Breanne, Breanne, Gibson, Gibson, like the guitar.
Yes.
And yeah, so I was taking a look at that stuff. It's super cool. Your website's beautiful.
Oh, thank
I
you.
love the energy of the pictures. And there's also, I think it's on your about page, you've got this picture where you're in like a green dress in the street and your hair is doing this like, so cool. So you guys should check out our website just to see that picture. And people
That
can
was
also
fun.
find me at on Facebook, the Epic Ecopreneur group. And also, I will be launching a website called theepicecopreneur.com very soon, so I'll include
Sweet.
links there. And Breanne, thanks so much for hanging out. Is there anything else, last message you'd like to leave people with?
No, I don't think so. I think that's great. Yeah, I mean, I'm always open to connect. So if anything resonated with anyone that's listening, you want to check in, just personal message me and I'd love to connect more.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for hanging out, you guys, and we will both see you around. Cool. That was great.
Sweet. Yeah. So good to hear like some of the things that you're really focused in on. With the
Thanks.
fermentation and like the gut brain, gut mind connection, and just how you want to serve your clients. Yeah, so much beautiful work that you're doing.
Thank you. It's come hugely full circle in just the past month. And I've put a lot of background stuff into place. Like I joined this program called Financial Peace University, and it's through a guy named Dave Ramsey, and it just like
Oh yeah.
I never was able to really understand money and budgeting, and like I'm focused on freeing myself from debt, like my student loans and stuff like that.
Right.
And it's creating so much calm in my mind. Like I just got my first every dollar budget, like every dollar's accounted for, done earlier this month, and just a wave of relief came over me. And so it's like all these little things that are happening. Like I'm in a place right now where I would lift up the computer, but there's all these wires. I'm sitting in this like 10 by 20 room that's a music studio. Like that's how big my place is, that it's just like I have so much space, and it's for me to share. I asked myself when I moved here, and it was like, oh, I'm supposed to share this place when I'm able to. And so like I'm in a space where I know I can live here for decades. I love it here. And like I'm rooted in, and I used to think that in rooting in I'd feel, confined and, somehow trapped or something. And I found that I can actually grow and blossom and expand and unfurl. So just like all these things of, it wasn't just about how can I, find the people that I want to help in the Epic Ecopreneur or my design business. It was, quiet, calm the noise within, and everything is just working on the outside. And it's a process, but it's a beautiful process. So it's so wonderful to catch up with you just a bit here. And yeah, you look so radiantly healthy, and I'm so excited for you and your partner and the new baby on the way, and the fact that you get to hang with your sister and put this garden together. It's just like totally full circle type of experience.
Yeah, I'm really grateful to be here on this island. I'm on Salt Spring Island, like off the coast of BC, so kind of just north of Orcas, not far. Wow. And so it's a really special place to be, especially at this time, and be with my sister. My partner's away with work, so it's like it just feels really grounding and good to be in this space that is like, I'm from BC, so it's like so home here. So especially at a time like this, to be with family and to be in BC, it feels really good. Yeah. So I'm grateful for the trees because there's like woods right behind, so can still go for walks even though all the parks are closed.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So like there's just so much. I just feel so grateful, for for being here. I mean, originally I was going to be in Bali up to the end of this month. I was going to be there for 2 months, and I only ended up spending 3 weeks there, and then came directly here. So yeah, it's yeah, lots of gratitude. And it's Earth Day. I was like, Pete
It
and I are
is.
connecting
Yeah,
on
I didn't
Earth
even
Day.
mention
Like,
that. So
oh
funny.
my gosh, what timing is that?
Right? Yeah, I'll put that
The
in the
epic
description
Earth Day
for sure.
conversation.
Yes. Yeah, that'd be perfect. So great. I
Right.
saw my first dandelion of the season today too.
Oh wow,
So,
okay, because the winter has still been pretty hardcore, oh, in the north, like in the east.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's been fluctuating. We've had a lot of warm weather here in Minnesota. We got a few inches of
okay,
snow like a week ago.
because you're
Uh,
more mid, yeah,
yeah, Midwest. Yep.
yeah.
So yeah, things are bumping here, but we haven't had rain in like a week and a half, and so we're actually starting to irrigate the blueberries already. We're supposed to
At
get a
this
lot of
time,
rain in the spring,
yeah,
so
huh,
yeah, it's an unusual spring for sure.
yeah, yeah. We're just getting rain here for the first day in about a week and a half. So hopefully your rain will come soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way,
Uh,
it's a gorgeous place to be.
yeah. Yeah, I've never been in that area before, but maybe one day. I've never been to
Yeah.
Minnesota.
Well, if something brings you out this way, I live right by the Twin Cities, which is like the main hub. So,
Okay.
um, yeah, feel free to let me know. And there's a lot of cool. It's really amazing, actually. The Midwest is full of regenerative agriculture.
Yeah, you've told me about that before, which is super cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little surprising because like living out in Portland, I thought, oh, here's the Mecca, but like the organic farming community is robust in our
Mm.
region. Yeah,
Wow, that's
it's a
amazing.
special place to be.
Yeah. Awesome. Wow. Good, you got your roots there.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey everybody, thanks so much for hanging out. I'm Pete Wyden, the Epic Ecopreneur, and I posted this podcast a couple months after Breanne and I originally recorded it. Hopefully it's still relevant for you, and I have included links to Breanne's information and my own as well below if you'd like to find out more, join our Facebook communities, for example, learn what we've got to offer you guys. We both have some free resources on our websites, so I'm appreciative of you joining us, and I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful next month, whatever that means for you.